There's this notion that everything trickles down from a small set of companies that are doing best practices. And this set of companies tends to be like very large, well capitalized, very profitable companies. You know, the FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google being, you know, the models of this is what needs to happen. But it's not actually trickling down, and not because people are slow to adopt or because, you know, they're lazy or they just don't understand the good solutions. But if you think about it, Google has a set of constraints for their processing like no other company. How many companies actually need to process at the rate of Google in terms of data, in terms of requests, in terms of many other things? Most websites aren't going to get that many hits, you know, in 10 years, what Google gets in a day. And also, you know, there's other things like if you're not set up that way, then it's not that you don't have the luxury of having 10 teams to work on, you know, optimizing certain things or developer productivity. You don't have the need to do that. And so it's kind of like, you know, if luxury cars were like really lightweight race cars that were actually dangerous for most people to drive, like you, like, you know, that's not a luxury vehicle. That's just something you don't need. And so I think that, you know, a lot of the influencers talk about like they tell great stories. They tell stuff that, you know, would be great for engineers starting out, like any junior engineer learning about how Dropbox did their distributed systems. Like that's great education for learning how to do distributed systems better. But most companies don't have problems of that scale. They don't need to solve them in the same way. And if they tried anything similar, they're just overbuilding. So there's a quote unquote common wisdom among a lot of investors that if you saw it at Facebook or you saw it at LinkedIn and you spin it out as a company, it's going to be successful. I think it's really worth questioning that, because most companies don't have problems at that scale. They have problems at a different scale. And so, you know, I had a really big realization moment recently when I was talking with one of my team members and he bought a motorcycle. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, motorcycle's so dangerous. Why wouldn't you get a car? And he said, I live in Bangalore. Like you can't get anywhere with a car. And everyone rides motorcycles. It's totally different. It's the only way to get from point A to point B. And, you know, I think there's a similar reaction sometimes in dev tools when it's like, oh my God, you haven't set up this, you know, this kind of cluster, or you haven't set it up this way. What are you doing? But, you know, at the level of requests that you actually need to serve to be profitable and to hit your targets as a company, like maybe you don't need to be doing it that way. And actually doing it that way slows you down is impossible. So I think that even calling these people blue collar workers, it's just, I think most developers are not Google. I think people have written a lot of things that have the exact title, you are not Google, and that's okay. But I think we should stop having this idolization of a small set of companies that have problems that no one else actually has. People should stop feeling bad that they're not solving those problems or having those problems. I think it's also, a side note, a little bit strange that in school we're